All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Corey, and I just wanted to make this video that talks about the basics of crafting in Last Epoch. So let's jump right into crafting. So I'm going to go ahead and load up like level 20. And that way we can talk about crafting and items and hopefully have some good examples. So I'm going to load into my character. I'm level 20 on this guy. As you can see, I've got some yellows. I'm also using some uniques. So the first thing that I want to talk about with crafting is the forge. Now the forge you can open by pushing F. Pushing F opens up the forge, and you can see that you have prefixes on the left side, you've got your piece of gear in the middle, and you have suffixes on the right. Right below the piece of gear, you've got your glyphs, and then you have your runes. Your runes are on this button. I hope my web camera is small enough so you guys can see. You know what? I'm just going to scoot myself over here for this video, actually. Okay, because most of what I want to show you is on the left-hand side. So when you're wanting to start crafting on gear, there's a couple of basic item things about items that you need to know. First off is that items have different affixes on them. Affixes, there are implicit affixes. So the implicit affixes would be the affixes that come with the base item type, or that come with the item type that it is. So this is a root staff of sleet. So this root staff, this is a shattering root staff of sleet. So the base item is a root staff. Shattering and of sleet come with the prefixes and the affixes, but we don't have to get into that. What we just want to know is that implicits are you can see that it's a two-handed staff. It has a base attack rate of 0.92. It's a slow weapon. It has plus 19 melee damage, the plus 7 spell damage, and the minus 3 spell mana cost. Those are the implicit affixes on this item. And we can also see that it has 23 fortune potential. Now below this, we can see the explicit affixes that are on this item. We have the plus 7 melee cold damage. We have a 34% increased spell damage. We have a plus 32% chance to chill on a hit, and a 76% increased stun chance. So this item has 4 affixes. Now you have 2 prefixes that an item can have, and you have 2 suffixes. This particular item happens to have all 4 filled in, but let's see if I can find... Let's look at like this ring, for example. This ring only has 3. So this ring is actually missing a suffix. So I'll use this ring as an example. As you can see, it has the implicit affix or implicit mod that it has 8% increased movement speed. And then it's got some explicit affixes. The 11% increased cold damage, the 19% increased fire damage, the plus 27 dodge rating. Those are the explicits, and those are what we can manipulate and change about this item. So, as you can see, when you put it in here, it populates the prefix and suffix side of things, and you can see these little up arrows that are blinking at you saying, click me. So you come in here. So we're looking at this item and we want to upgrade it. It's like, okay, my character is like, let's just say I'm a lightning based character. We can use lightning as an example. Okay, I'm a lightning based character. Let's go ahead and no, I don't have lightning, so let's just use cold damage. Let's just say I wanted this ring to have more cold damage on it. So I could come over here to the blinking arrow, This auto-populates this big circle, which shows you the affix, and if you hover over it, as you can see, it says, okay, we're going to be increasing cold damage, and this shows how many of that type of affix shard that you have. Affix shards drop in the game, and you'll be picking them up as you go in the game. And as you're picking them up in the game, like as you're killing monsters, they'll drop as items. You'll pick them up. They'll go into your inventory right here. But there's this nifty little transfer materials button that you always want to click. It's like almost every time I open up my inventory, I want to click this transfer materials button, and it just sucks in all the runes, all the glyphs, and all of the affix shards into my crafting materials page, which is where all of those things are stored. So for crafting, it's like, okay, I want to up this cold damage because I'm a cold damage mage. I want to be doing cold damage. You click on the little up arrow, it populates the shard, and this is where we have to look at a couple different things. First thing I want to talk about is forging potential. So every item comes with a different amount of forging potential. So this ring particularly has 24. We can see it up here at the top. It's got 24 forging potential. What that means is we have 24... It's basically points that we can use to craft on the item, and when we run out of points, we can't craft on the item anymore. So as long as it has forging potential, and we have things that we can do on it, we'll be able to do it. So let's just say you want to craft this up. We have 24 forging potential. Let's hit upgrade. Boom. Okay, the crafting outcome, we can see -7 forging potential. Okay, we're down 7, we're down to 17, and it increased the tier of affix. So it went from tier 1 to tier 2. So on this ring, you upgraded the cold damage, so now it's 17% increased cold damage, up from what it was, which I don't remember exactly what it was. But another nifty thing you can do on items, which is important to know, is you can hold Alt on the item, and this will bring up the ranges that these, the tiers and the ranges that these affixes can be. So we can look at our prefixes, and we can say, okay, we upgraded this cold damage. It is 17%. It is a tier 2 cold damage affix. And we can see the range is 13 to 21. And we got a 17. So it's like, okay. It's kind of in the middle of the pack. It's not on the high end, and it's not on the super low end. So it's kind of right in the middle. We can see that our 19% increased fire damage is also a tier 2 affix. The range is 13 to 21%, and it's a 19, so that's pretty decent. Then we can see our suffixes, that dodge rating there, 27, is also a tier 2 suffix, and, ooh, it's only got a 27 dodge rating, so it's on the low end, and it could go up to 36. The lowest is 26, and it's a 27, so it's just one above the very, very bottom of that range. So, that's really important to know when you're crafting as well, as you can hold Alt and hover over the item and hold Alt, and you can see the tiers and the ranges that they can be. So you upgrade that, and you're going along. Now there's these glyphs. These are glyphs, and it's a modification that you can use in your crafting. You can use glyphs to modify the outcome of your craft to do different things. So the first one is called the Glyph of Hope. This modifies the outcome of a craft, granting it a 25% chance to have no forging potential cost. So that's a really good one to usually just have that one on all the time, unless you're doing the specific things that these other ones say. But make sure you always have your Glyph of Hope on, because the more forging potential you have, the more you can craft on the item. And this has a 25% chance for your craft to not cost anything Therefore, you can get more stuff up without running out of forging potential as fast. So let's just go one more time and see if we proc it. Okay, we did. So crafting outcome, we got it to tier 3. The Glyph of Hope preserved forging potential, so it's still at 17. We can still work on this item. And it's a tier 3. I forgot where I was going with that and. Except this, we actually can't craft this up to a tier 4 yet because it requires level 26 to keep forging this specific affix to go up to the next tier. Items that you can craft from tier 1 all the way up to tier 5. So tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are craftable. Tier 6 and tier 7 are drop only. Tier 6 and tier 7s are the highest tiers that you can get, tier 7 being the highest. And those only drop in the world, so you can't craft up to a tier 6 or a tier 7. It only goes up to tier 5. Let's see. Okay, so this item has 3... it's got 2 prefixes, but it's only got 1 suffix. You're like, okay, well, this has 3 of the things that I want on it, let's say, potentially. Or actually, well, yeah. This has 3 of the things I want. Let's go ahead and add a 4th. So what I like to do is when I'm trying to craft items, I say, okay, I've got increased cold damage, I do some fire damage, I got some dodge rating. Usually I wouldn't want dodge. So I guess for this example, I'll show you some of the runes here in just a second. I'm going to actually finish going through the glyphs because I forgot. So let's backtrack. Glyphs. We've got Glyph of Hope, which modifies the outcome of a craft. We saw what that one did because we modified this cold damage with it. So now we have the Glyph of Chaos. This randomly changes the upgraded affix to a different one that can spawn on that item type. So different affixes, there's different item types can have different affixes on them, associated with them. It cannot change a prefix into a suffix or vice versa, though. So it only changes a prefix into a prefix, excuse me, and a suffix into a suffix. And you can hover over these and just read them for yourself. This prevents the roll of an affix within its range changing when it is upgraded, so it'll stay. So if this, okay, so for the Glyph of Order, let's say, so the Glyph of Chaos will just randomly change this cold damage into something else, or this dodge rating into, well, actually, let's just do a real life example. I don't really want this dodge rating. I'm going to try to Glyph of Chaos this into something else that I could potentially want. So I'm going to upgrade it and re-roll it. So it goes up to a tier 3. We can see that it used 2 forging potential, so now we're down to 15. So we've got to keep an eye on our forging potential. And it's now a tier 3 poison resistance. It's like, oh, that's actually good. That's way better than dodge for what I want to do. I need poison resistance. And then it's like, okay, cool, it's a tier 3. I can upgrade it. Oh, except I can't because it's a tier 3 and it requires 29 to forge. But here's a tier 2 fire damage. We could click on this. Make sure, if you're trying to upgrade this and not change it, make sure to always check and make sure you come back here. Switch it back to Glyph of Hope. You don't want to accidentally Glyph of Chaos something off that you actually really wanted. So there's that. Glyph of Order. So Glyph of Order says it prevents the roll of an affix within its range changing when it is upgraded. My understanding of this glyph is that, and this is why it's important to know that you can push Alt and see the ranges. Let's say, okay, this fire damage. We've got a 19% increased fire damage on the tier 2. The range is 13 to 21. So we know that 19 is kind of on the higher end of the fire damage. If we use this Glyph of Order to upgrade it, then it will upgrade. Well, actually, it says upgrade to 28%. Will that literally change it from 19 to 28? It should. It should keep it. It should keep the range at the higher end of what the tier is, right? So this is a 19. 19. So you're at 19. So you have 20, 21. So it's only 3 below the max. Because you have 19, 20, 21. So it's third below the very max roll. So we upgrade it to 28%. And as we can see, 28, it's not quite max. It's just 2 below the max. 19 is 2 below 21 as well. Duh. That's the math. So yeah, 19, 20, 21, it's 2 below the max, and 28, yeah. So it keeps the range. So it's like, okay, this fire damage is on the higher end. I want to keep it. Let's use this glyph instead. We use 9 forging potential, but we got to keep this tier at the higher end of the range instead of having it. It could randomly, if we didn't use this glyph, it could have been down at 22 or 23% rather than towards the higher end. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. What else? You can come in here. If you have an item that has 4 affixes, you've got forging potential left, you can click on the plus button, and this brings up your crafting inventory. And this is where you can see all of the runes you have, all of the support glyphs. This is where they are stored. You can also see the prefixes and the suffixes that can be on this item type. And depending on what I'm going for, I like to just sort them either by prefix or by suffix. So you can sort them by any of these, or if you're looking for a very specific one and you know what it is, you can just type it in. But what I like to do is since I'm clicking on this one, I know it's in the suffix area because this is the suffixes. If you're clicking on this side, it would be the prefixes. So I click on this, it's like, okay, I'm looking for suffixes only, so I click on this button. Boom. And then I can scroll through and see all the different suffixes that I have shards for that could be on this item. So it's like, okay, well, it's got poison resistance. Usually this is where I'm looking at my character sheet and I'm like, okay, what do I need on it? Let's just say, okay, I need more void resistance. I don't have enough void resistance for whatever reason. So I'm like, okay, I want to put void resistance on it. Make sure that you switch your glyph back into Glyph of Hope. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to try to craft this. You click the button, except this requires level 21 to forge, so my character is not high enough level to put a 4th affix on this at this time, but if I make one more level, I'll be able to. But that's just, as an example, that's how I would do that. And then it would have 4 affixes. Okay, and then the last one is the Glyph of Despair. The Glyph of Despair is really, really good because it has a chance to seal an affix instead of upgrading it. The sealed affix is moved to its own slot, leaving its old slot open for you to add a new affix. So what happens is when you use a Glyph of Despair, let's say you can select whichever one of these you want. So if you want another prefix, it's like, okay, this has got tier 3 fire damage on it. I want to try and seal this off into its own separate area. It puts it down here. And this spot will open up and you can put a new prefix on it. And suddenly your item has 5 affixes on it instead of 4. So you can get items with 5 affixes on them instead of just the normal 4. And then things that are higher are like uniques or legendaries. So, I don't know if uniques can have more than 4 without it becoming a legendary. Let's go look at my stash. Oh yeah. Uniques can have more. This has like 7. 6. This has 6. So yeah. This one has 7. So yeah, uniques are special. And this, so orange is unique. This red color is a legendary item. So those are what those different colors mean. Green are set items. Then you have yellow, you have blue, then you have this yellow-blue mix, which, or this yellow bluish purple mix, which is a experimental item, which come from exiled mages, which you find out in the world. They're locked in the rune prisons that you open, and the exiled mage comes out and you fight them, and they'll give you these special items. So that's pretty much the basics of crafting. I guess the only thing left is to go over runes. Okay, so we still have runes to go over. I think I don't have whatever this one on the end is, so I don't actually know what that is. And I've never used it because I have never found one. Okay, for runes, we've got a bunch of different types of runes here. And this is another thing that you can use to modify your crafting as you go along. So Rune of Shattering is the most common. In fact, Rune of Shatterings can be bought from these blacksmiths. See, she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's got 5 Rune of Shattering. And then you just click this Transfer Materials. It gets sucked into your crafting materials area. And you're good to go. You just hit F to bring that forge back up. And it still has your item stays in the forge. So if you're ever doing something and you're like, oh crap, and you're like working on your weapon, and then you hop out and you're trying to do stuff and you realize, oh wait, what? I don't have a weapon? Make sure you open your forge and look to see if there's anything in there, because sometimes your items can get lost in the forge if you don't remember that they're in there. Alright. I was going to talk about the runes. So we've got the Rune of Shattering. So I like to buy Runes of Shattering if I have enough money. Pretty much every single time I see them. Because I like to shatter my gear. And shattering your gear destroys the item, but it creates a random number of affix shards that have these affixes of them, right? So it turns these into affix shards, basically. So it's like, okay, I could break this item down and get cold damage or fire damage or poison resistance shards from this ring. So as an example, I'll just pull out a rando. Let's just go to the stash. This is gear that my other characters have all accumulated, right? Let's just pull out this wand. So this is in Exalted. Put this wand in here. The reason it's Exalted is because it has a tier 6 affix or a tier 7, which is the drop only. As you can see that purple lettering there, it's got some tier 4s, and then it has a tier 6 drop only. So those only are found out in the as you're fighting monsters, and you cannot craft up to a tier 6 or a tier 7. And that's why this is also purple. Because it has a tier 6 or tier 7 affix associated with it. Alright, so let's say, okay, I'm going to Rune of Shattering this. This is going to give me a bunch, this is going to give me freeze rate multiplier, chance to ignite on hits, physical damage, or fire damage. It's just going to give me a random amount of these types of shards. So when I break it, I got 1 chance to ignite, I got 3 freeze rate multiplier, I got 4 physical damage, and 3 fire damage. Shards, and those shards are what you use in here for crafting. So, alright, hello. I am back because I completely forgot to go through the rest of the runes. So I want to go ahead and do that. I just don't use these runes very often, and so I forgot to go through them. But let's go ahead and read through them. We've got the Rune of Refinement. Rerolls the values of all affixes on an item within their tiers. So that's why we want to make sure we know how to push Alt and say, oh, okay, these are the tiers, these are the ranges. This rune will reroll all the affixes within their tiers. Rune of Removal. This removes a random affix on an item, returning a number of shards equal to it. So if you had this in there, it would randomly just take one of these and break it apart into the shards, and then that slot would be open for you to do something else with it. And it will just choose at random. Excuse me. The next rune is the Rune of Discovery. It adds random tier 1 affixes to all empty affix slots on an item. Has an increased chance of rolling rarer affix. Does not cost forging potential, but cannot be applied to items with 0 forging potential. So as long as you have an item, let's say you have an item like this ring, it's got an open slot, you could use this Rune of Discovery to put an affix. It doesn't cost any forging potential, and it has a chance of rolling one of the rarer affixes on it. So we can just add that to it. Okay, got a fire resist. Nice. And then from there, I can do other things with it. The next one is the Rune of Shaping. This rerolls all implicits on an item. So this one actually does affect the implicit. So this one would be dodge rating. This one only has one, so I don't think that it would really... Let's go ahead and actually try it out. This one's 12. It can go 10 to 25. So it went from 12 to 16. So that it just re-rolls the implicit there. Now the Rune of Ascendance, this changes the item into a unique or set item of the same item type. So the example is using this on a silver ring, could turn it into any unique ring, including ones that are not silver rings. However, it can't turn it into a helmet. That's basically the example, right? Like I've got this ring, I could use a Rune of Ascendance and turn this into any of the potential rings or unique rings or set rings. Alright, then we have a Rune of Creation. The Rune of Creation, I only have 2 of these, but it duplicates the item, but it reduces the forging potential of both the original and the copy to 0. So these Rune of Creations you really want to save for those really, really, really good items. Just your best in slot items, and then you can duplicate it. And then we have a Rune of Research. Rune of Research seals an experimental affix on the item. The affix is moved to its own slot, leaving its old slot open for you to add a new affix. The sealed affix can't be modified further, and an item can have a maximum of 1 sealed affix. When an experimental affix is sealed, you have a chance to gain a Glyph of Insight. This chance is higher for items with higher tier affixes, but cannot exceed 45%. Now, the Glyph of Insight, that's what these are right here. I've never found any of them, so I haven't done that yet. Anyway, that is all I wanted to say. That's just a little addition of going through the rest of the runes for crafting. So this one has a tier 1. Tier 1, tier 1, tier 1. So I guess this item is all tier 1, and items that you can craft on can go up to tier 5. As I was just saying, you can't go to tier 6 or tier 7, but 1 through 5 you can craft. So you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. Those are craftable. So let's just say the staff. Okay, I want more spell damage. Spell damage is 34%. I'm going to try to craft... I've got 74 of the affix shard. Right? So these are those shards that you're picking up as you go along. Make sure you always transfer them to your inventory. I've got 74 of them that I have found. I can upgrade this. Make sure come in here, make sure I'm on the right glyph. I want Glyph of Hope so that it doesn't use so that it has a chance to not use any of this forging potential. Because once that hits 0, oh, it used 4, but I got it to tier 2. And I could just keep going and get it all the way up as high as I can. Oh, I got a critical success. I got a +1 tier melee cold damage. So I got it up to a tier 3 for free. Alright. I think it would have, since it was tier 2, I think it would have actually gone to tier 4 if I was high enough level for it to do that. Because I think crits give you the upgrade +1. So anyway, that is the basics of crafting. And so make sure you're setting up your loot filter and filtering out those items, and so that you can see so that you're picking up different items that you actually want to be crafting and making better through crafting. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you guys want me to go over again how I set up my loot filter, I can do that. Just let me know. I do, in my other video that I have, the how to create a build in Last Epoch, I think it's called. I set up, I show you guys how I set up my basic loot filters in there. But if you guys want me to do a specific video on loot filters, I can do that. If you guys have any questions about crafting, I can do that. I can get more in depth into exalted and legendary crafting and such. But this is just a very basic beginner guide to crafting. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.